So, welcome to API Chat. This is actually our fourth episode already, Bruno.
Wow.
So, we're building up a little bit of portfolio videos here. So, welcome back. We hope you've enjoyed the previous discussions we've had. Today, we want to continue the theme of diving deep in terms of certain topics for the API world. Today, we're being less orientated towards technical implementation, but more around products and the business models around the products and understanding the cost of building out an API. So there's this concept, Bruno, we've been discussing for a long time. It's about cost of integration.
Right.
And we think this is an issue that people are dealing with every day, but it hasn't been framed perfectly yet. So I guess today's discussion is around trying to help people understand that and frame that discussion. So cost of integration. At a super high level, what does it mean for a business to build out an API? So it's not cost of integration with another third party. It's about building an API that other people can integrate with.
Right.
How do we start understanding what that is? What are the basic costs? What are the basic thought patterns an organization needs?
Yeah, good question. So if you're an API provider, the cost of API integration can be seen as the total cost of building your API and letting other companies integrate with your API. So that involves development costs, so usually the upfront development of your own API, and then maintenance costs, so the ongoing maintenance of your API, what is needed over time to keep it running, and also support costs. All the costs that are associated with supporting the users, the end users of the applications that are integrating with your API, and also the developers that are building those integrations.
Okay, so it's these three core components. So I guess what many people that will be listening to this will be thinking through is, how do I understand those costs in correlation with obviously revenue?
Right.
And I think we'll discuss that more and more of how to measure the revenue, but directly understanding the costs. So someone like Salesforce, I think they announced earlier this year or late last year that 50% of their revenue actually surprisingly comes from their API integrations. So if you're paying for Salesforce, you would know this already. It is obviously an exceptional platform, but 50% of your costs often come from the API integration. So they're an exceptional case. But a normal business, an early stage business that's building out an API, they've got a core product, whether it's CRM or accounting or anything else. These three components, let's go into a bit more detail of each one. So what is the development cost? Where does that start and where does that end?
Right. So by development costs, we usually think about the upfront costs. So when you're building your API and you're designing the API, you need to implement it. So it's usually whatever is related to designing the API, documenting it, and getting it ready to be released. So everything that happens until the release of the API to the public.
Okay. And I guess some of our experience is it's not just about delivering the API, it's the thought beforehand as well. It's about bundling that design process as well.
Yeah, all the use cases, the personas, and how you want to design your API so that whatever is your target audience can use the API and so on and so forth. So it's not just pure, let's say, software development, but it's a whole range of activities around API design.
Yeah. And I guess most businesses have always thought as this is the start and the finish of the cost, right? But
yes.
The next stage is maintenance. So you've built a range of businesses around this. You've supported many integrations.
Right.
How does the maintenance process work? Or what are the patterns you've seen in terms of the resource allocation through initial delivery through to 6 months after you've delivered?
Yeah. So the maintenance costs, in my opinion, are related with two main factors. So the one factor is keeping the API up and running, or keeping the integrations up and running, which is broader than just the API itself. So that, in most cases, that might be associated with an API management platform, or paying for your own infrastructure, whatever you need to keep it up and running. But also all the different activities that are needed throughout the lifetime of the integration. So whenever a feature needs to be changed, whenever you need to add something new to the API, you found a bug, you need to fix the bug, you need to perform tests, all those activities that will make sure that the API is actually up and running.
So there's the API management, which is sort of an infrastructure cost. There's the effort of your developers keeping everything up and running, and I guess there's also new features and other
New features, bug fixes, anything that over time will impact your development costs and the way the API is operating.
Yeah. And I guess the third piece and what we want to discuss today, specifically is people are realizing that support actually, once you've got this live, once you have the infrastructure in place, how do you actually support that? And what have you seen in terms of the effort required compared to development maintenance components? How does support interact with those costs in terms of resources?
Right. So what I see happening is that over time, maintenance costs will get lower and lower and lower until they eventually reach like a flat line near 0% of the total cost. But in opposition to that, the support costs might get higher and higher and higher in percentage, because the more users and the more integrations you have, usually the more support requests you're going to get.
Okay.
So support requests might be related to just, someone found a problem, or they don't know exactly how something works, or they need specific help with something.
Okay.
So you need to be able to address all those requests over time. Otherwise, your integration and the API will be perceived as with a low quality.
And can you share a little bit of insight? Because obviously we work with a range of companies helping them with support. Have you seen some patterns within that of going in deep and needing a dedicated resource that gets on the phone, has many calls with people versus one-time interactions with support? Have you seen a correlation of the effort required on different support requests?
Yeah, so what we've been seeing is, that in most situations, most API technical support requests, there is no need for further, follow-ups during that support request. Usually, the support request ends with the first reply. So this means that it's either someone that doesn't know exactly how to use something, or it's a very specific, issue that can be addressed with a single reply.
Okay. And can you, share with the audience, some vague numbers around that? Because I think it's sort of important for people to sort of engage, understand the gauge of how much effort is the one-time reply versus multiple replies and deep engagement.
Yeah, we're talking about values in the range of 80% to 20%. So 80% are requests that don't require a follow-up versus 20%, which usually are the requests that require a volume of going back and forth with the user.
Okay.
So it's 80-20.
80-20. Okay, so that's the classic 80-20 rule.
Well, I guess it applies to almost anything, no?
Yeah. So, what we'd love to hear is from our audience, for you out there who are in the API world, who are running through these challenges, we'd love to continue this conversation to understand that relationship between development, maintenance, and support. Obviously, we're a company that provides the API support component, and we spend a lot of time with people, and we understand this in a really in-depth fashion. But we'd love to help basically articulate to the market and start this discussion for the API world. What is the cost of integration, so that you out there who are building businesses, whether they're early stage or late stage businesses who are building out these API communities, how you can understand the costs and the benefits around that. So we look forward to your comments. Thank you for joining us today. Tonight we'll be in Barcelona. Bruno will be doing a presentation around the cost of integration, cost of API integration specifically. So we look forward to your comments, and we hope to chat to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.